the 7 natural wonders might have been named too quickly. Things like the Grand Canyon and Victoria Falls are definitely huge, and anyone who sees them will be impressed. But just being big isn't enough to really amaze someone. There are other places in the world that are much weirder. They seem almost like they're from another planet, like they evolved differently from ours. Scientists have had a tough time figuring out how these places formed. They're the kind of places that really make you wonder, not just because they're pretty, but because they follow scientific rules that you don't see anywhere else on Earth. Welcome back to Epic Explorer. Stay tuned with us as we will uncover 10 scientifically impossible places that actually exist. Number 10. The Devil's Kettle. The Devil's Kettle in Minnesota is one of those weird natural mysteries. At a certain spot along the Brule River, the water splits into two. One part goes on to Lake Superior, but the other part, no idea where it goes. Scientists tried to figure it out by putting dye in the water, but nothing showed up. Then they tried ping pong balls, and those disappeared too. It's like, what's happening? According to science, the water has to end up somewhere. Even if it's underground, there should be signs of it, but still they can't. Nothing. Maybe it's aliens, or a glitch in the universe, or some Mayan magic. Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. Number 9 has Dolan Lights. In Dolan Valley, Norway, there's something strange going on called the Hessdalen Lights. Every night, colorful lights show up in the sky. They twirl around and change shape before vanishing, only to come back the next night. This has been happening for like 40 years or more. Scientists are totally puzzled by it. There are some ideas about what could be causing it though. One theory is that the lake there might be radioactive, and when radon gas mixes with dust in the air, it makes the lights. Another idea is that there's sulfuric acid at the bottom of the valley, and when sulfur reacts with water, it creates sparks that look like the lights. But even after lots of tests, nobody's figured out for sure what's causing it. Number 8. Moville Cave. In southeastern Romania, there's this cave that's been kept in the dark for like 5.5 million years. It's got a totally different vibe from Earth, So some workers were scoping out the place to build a power plant, and they accidentally opened up a way into this super weird cave. If you shimmy down this tight passage and through a bunch of tunnels, you end up in this chamber with a stinky lake of sulfur water, smells like rotten eggs, full of hydrogen sulfide and way too much carbon dioxide. But one thing very strange discovered there, a whole mini-world living in there. Scientists found 33 different species that don't live anywhere else. They've adapted to the weird atmosphere, munching on this foam stuff on the rocks to survive. Number 7. Lake Karachai. Back in the Soviet Union days, they had a bunch of nuclear spots, but a lot of them were super dodgy. In one factory, there's this lake called Lake Karachai. And let me tell you, it's not your average lake. It's like the most radioactive place on Earth. If you even stand near it for an hour, you will be toasted. The Soviets used to dump all their nuclear junk in there, and it's caused some serious mess-ups. Like in 1957, there was this huge explosion that scattered radioactive stuff for miles, even more than Chernobyl. They've tried to cover up the lake with concrete to stop disasters, but the whole area is still crazy, radioactive and unstable. Number 6. The Double Tree of Cassoro. Out in the countryside of Piemonte, Italy, there's this crazy site called the Double Tree of Cassoro, a cherry tree growing right on top of a mulberry tree. Like, it's not totally unheard of for one tree to grow out of another, but usually they're tiny and weak. But these trees have different vibes. They're both big, healthy trees, spreading out over 5 meters each. How did it happen? Well, nobody's really sure, but locals think maybe a bird dropped a cherry seed onto the mulberry tree. The seed grew roots that snaked down through the mulberry tree's trunk, reaching the ground and growing into a full-blown cherry tree. That is crazy. Number 5. The sleeping city of Kalachi. In Kazakhstan, there's this real-life mystery called the sleeping city of Kalachi. It's not some Disneyland fantasy, it's for real. But here's the weird part. People in Kalachi are facing this crazy epidemic. They just keel over and doze off out of the blue, even while walking down the street. On top of that, they're dealing with memory loss, tiredness, and even seeing things that aren't there. It's hitting people of all ages and genders. The government has even suggested evacuating the place, but they're no closer to figuring out what's going on. One idea is that it might be radiation from a nearby uranium mine, but tests haven't shown any proof of that. Plus, there's another town even closer to the mine, and they're not having these problems. It is totally bizarre, right? Number 4. Circles of Namibia. Out in the deserts of Namibia, there's this weird thing called the Circles of Namibia. The fields of grass with these perfect circles carved out at regular intervals. They can be as small as 10 feet or as big as 65 feet across. And if you're thinking of that a movie Signs, you're not alone. Till day, nobody knows why these circles are here or why they're circles instead of some random shape. Plus, nothing grows in these circle spots. Scientists have thrown out all sorts of ideas, but none of them can figure out. Like in 2013, this scientist said termites were behind it, but another guy tested it in 2015 and proved that wrong. It's like a real-life mystery that keeps everyone scratching their heads. Number 3. The hum of the Teos. You know that annoying buzzing sound you sometimes hear but can't figure out where it's coming from. It's like super irritating, right? Well, imagine dealing with that non-stop for the people in Teos, New Mexico since the 90s. They've been driven nuts by this constant humming noise all over town, like it's everywhere. Scientists have been trying to find the source for 20 years, but no luck yet. Some say maybe the people in Taos have super hearing and can pick up sounds normal people can't. But seriously, doesn't that just make you wonder even more? Number 2. Never-ending lightning storm. Out in western Venezuela, over the Catatumbo River, there's this crazy lightning storm that never quits. Every night at 7 p.m., lightning starts blasting over the water and keeps going for like 10 hours continuous. This happens about 260 nights a year. It's wild. Nobody's really sure why it happens. People used to think it had something to do with uranium in the ground, but now they're not so sure. The latest idea is pretty complex. It's all about the shape of the mountains, warm winds crashing into cold air from the Andes, water evaporating fast, and methane from an oil field nearby. But honestly, nobody's got a definite answer. It's all a big mystery, especially like that time in 2010 when it suddenly stopped for no reason. People thought it was all over, but then 6 weeks later, boom, it started up again, and it's been raging ever since, weird right? Number 1. The boiling river. Somewhere down in the Amazon lies a stream 4 miles in length, and in contrast to some other on the planet. The Shanay-Timpishka is hot to such an extent that any creature that means into it gets bubbled alive. At the point when a hapless animal meanders in the ice, cook first liquefying in quite a wild skull. Before long, the creature is in a lot of torment to continue to swim to somewhere safe water, fills its mouth and lungs, and it is cooked from the back to front. The waterway gets as hot as 91 degrees Celsius, 196 degrees Fahrenheit, and researchers aren't totally certain why. Ordinarily, water that gets this hot is taken care of by a well of lava. In any case, this one is 700 kilometers eliminated from the closest one. However, there is a hypothesis researchers accept that extremely hot water from under the earth breaks through separation points and warms up the stream, making the water a geothermal framework dissimilar to some other on the planet. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed our today's video. Please consider subscribing our channel and hit the bell icon so you won't miss any future videos.